Hi everyone, this is Julian here. Welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to talk about writing task 2, and in particular we're going to talk about how to improve cohesion in your writing using something called shell nouns. Now first of all, what is cohesion and why is it important for you? Cohesion means linking your ideas and words together in a clear and logical way, and it's one of the most important things that the examiner will look for in your writing. And it's one area where a lot of IELTS students fall down, so it's something you should really work on and work on hard. Okay, so let's have a look at an example of cohesion in action first of all. Okay, so I have an example. Many people today are overweight. Many people today eat too much. Now I hope you can recognize that these two sentences, they're very jumpy. They don't sound good, they don't sound well linked together. I can change them and I can link them together using the word because. So I can say many people today are overweight because they eat too much. Because links the idea of overweight and eating too much, makes things smoother, joins the ideas together. Because is a conjunction, so there are lots of conjunctions. Also, and, but, because, however, therefore, in conclusion, for example. I'm sure that you've heard a lot about conjunctions and you've probably practiced using conjunctions in your writing before. A lot of IELTS students do. Most textbooks teach about conjunctions, but conjunctions are not enough to make your writing well linked. They're not enough to get you a good score in cohesion. To do that, you need to learn other techniques, and one of the most important techniques is using shell nouns. What is a shell noun? Okay, a shell noun is a signpost word or a replacement word that replaces another word, phrase, or sentence in your writing. So, some examples would be fact, issue, question, measure, problem, argument, situation. All of these words are abstract nouns that we use to describe something else and to replace that idea in our work. Okay. Alright. So, your big tip for today is that a lot of research has been done on the differences between native speaker writing and non-native speaker writing. And one of the main findings that the researchers discovered was that good native speaker writers like to use a lot of shell nouns and non-native speaker writers don't use them at all. Okay, so let's have a look at an example. First of all, let's have a look at identifying some shell nouns. So, I'll give you an example sentence. Employees should be encouraged to take sick leave. Employees should be encouraged to take sick leave. Do you think this is a question, a problem, or an issue, an opinion, a fact? How would you describe that sentence? Now, I hope you can all recognize that I've just expressed my opinion. So if you want to talk about that sentence, you could refer to it as this opinion and point to it. Okay. The second example is air pollution. So air pollution, I hope you can all recognize, is not a question, it's not an opinion, it's a problem or an issue. Okay. Third example, what can be done to resolve the problem of childhood obesity? And I hope you can all recognize that this is actually a question. And the final one is the government banned cars from entering the city centre in order to reduce the problem of traffic congestion. So what we're dealing with here, the government has done something to fix a problem. So when we do something to fix a problem, we can call that a step or a measure. Okay, so now we've identified shell nouns, so what? So what? Why do you need to know about shell nouns? Why do you need to use them in your writing? Okay, I will explain. Let's look at an example. And in this first example, there's no shell noun and it's poor cohesion. Okay, so what can be done to resolve the problem of childhood obesity? To resolve the problem of childhood obesity, we must first address its underlying causes. Hope you can see here that the phrase resolve the problem of childhood obesity is actually repeated, and it sounds awful. It's terrible cohesion. What we need to do, we need to cut out that phrase, and we need to use another word and put it in there to create a link between the two sentences and to avoid repeating ourselves. Okay. So in the second example here, if we have a look, what can be done to resolve the issue of childhood obesity? In order to answer this question, we must first address its underlying causes. Okay, so I hope you can see here that this question points back to the first sentence, and it makes a mental link, and it reminds your reader of what you said in the previous sentence. Creates a link between the two ideas. Okay, that's one example. Let's look at some more examples. I'll just give you a minute to read these. Okay. So let's look at the first example. In the USA, minors convicted of serious crimes are sometimes sentenced as adults. This issue is quite controversial. So the word issue is referring to sentencing minors or children as adults in court. Second example, the government banned cars from entering the city centre in order to reduce traffic congestion. Many people were unhappy with this measure. This measure means banning cars from entering the city centre, creating a link. Third example, air pollution is serious in many cities. This problem is largely caused by private car use and heavy industry. Problem, air pollution. Okay. So, I've now made some examples for you. So there are 4 examples here. What you need to do is you need to insert the appropriate shell noun into the space provided, and I'll give you a minute to do that. And I hope you all did really well and got those questions correct. Now, just before we finish, I'll just recap and summarise what we've talked about today. So what I've told you today is that cohesion is something that you need to work on. It's an area where a lot of IELTS students fall down and get lower marks. And just to reinforce that conjunctions are important and you should learn about them, but they're not enough. You also need to learn other techniques, including shell nouns. Okay? So practice your shell nouns, use them, love them. They will help you. They'll make your writing sound more like an expert, less like a beginner. And just like to say thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again next time. Happy studies.